I think that anybody who's made a difference on our planet has been captured by something. Martin Luther King was captured by his dream. Muhammad Ali was captured by his greatness. And so I feel that...
And his integrity.
And
that guy.
Yeah, like...
height of his career.
Was able to give it all up because he was connected to something beyond. He was connected to a truth that was beyond. And imagine if Muhammad Ali was here this day and somebody told him some of the truths that they feel, you know, and they would probably try to cancel him.
He would be canceled for sure.
A lot of these guys would be canceled. You know, what would a crazy person call a normal person?
Probably crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So of course, like in a sick society where a psychological pathology that is rooted in disorder is the norm, anything that is of norm is going to be considered cray. People are going to be like, that's not okay.
Isn't that wild though, that we've like normalized the idea that we're just going to pretend that something isn't true? And I think it's in George Orwell. 1984 is it's resurrected. It's crazy to watch the playbook of 1984, but then be like, wait, am I actually the one who's captured, right? Like that check-in, I think, is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I've had to keep coming back to like, am I fucking nuts?
Mm-hmm.
Because I witness people saying things that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to pretend that makes sense. And I think for the majority of people, this is no shame to anyone who's like still agreeing to things that don't make sense. But I do believe on some level it is our obligation. And I was going to say moral obligation, but I'm sure morality means different things for different people. But it's like our moral obligation to fight, to maintain a connection to grounded reality, which when you return back to nature, there's no denying so many facts, like so many truths. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why it's so important to tap back into nature on a regular basis, because there are universal truths that live, that are true, and they will be true thousands of years from now, and they were true 1,000 years ago. And certain things like biological sex is true in that space. When you look at a society like ours that has a lot of fundamental sicknesses, I sent you that after school episode about menticide. And
we'll link that in the show notes because it's so good.
And it says that when a person is inflicted with trauma, in order to make sense of the trauma, a couple of things happen. One, they escape by creating a completely different reality, or there's a psychological break. And in that break, things become reconfigured in a distorted way so they can actually find homeostasis in that reality again. If we pull back to a worldview or a societal view, there's been so much induced trauma that individuals in our society have been, and there's been a psychological, schema that's been inflicted that inevitably has been reconfigured in a way that is not necessarily rooted in reality. That's what I see happening. I feel that people have been induced with so much trauma that there's been psychological breaks. And when you're in a space of psychological breaks, you're creating your own reality to inevitably navigate the traumatic situation that you're in.
To maintain a perception of safety, security, predictability.
Predictability. And maybe that sense of predictability is saying gender looks like this. Maybe that sense of predictability is saying, well, I need to get this vaccine. Is it true? I believe one thing, they believe another thing, but I do believe that there are undeniable facts, and that's what we have to really get rooted in this day and age, is like, what is the ultimate truth? And that's the essence of critical thinking. And critical thinking has gone offline in a lot of ways.
Shit sailed.
And the essence of critical thinking is, can I entertain an opposing thought without believing it to be true or false? Most people cannot do that. That's why people will fight to the death over a vaccine that has no validity, or fight to the death over something that has been spewed out by a sick media system that has no rootedness in human health.
Yeah.
Critical thinking has to come back online.
Well, which means we have to have conversations like, how wild is it that this conversation is actually on the edge of inflammatory for some people?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
That's bananas.
100%.
Because like these kinds of conversations, although they're happening privately a lot, they're not happening publicly a lot because people are terrified of being canceled. They're terrified. I can't even mention gender. I can't even mention sex. I can't even mention COVID. I can't even mention vaccines. Not to mention that if you do use some of those words, you're actually censored on these media outlets. If I was to tell you that 4 years ago, no one would believe me. No one would believe that the criticism of a pharmaceutical product was actually going to be shamed.
Right.
That to me is an alternate, to even say that today, that the desire to want to have a dialogue about specific things or dive deep into the psychological manipulation, there's 100% been a massive industrial strength propaganda campaign.
100%.
It's been going on about war forever though.